Alex stood alone in the pale glow of the workshop, the air humming softly with the sound of idle machines. He stared at the empty chair where Sam once sat, tinkering by his side. Every day felt heavier now that Sam had moved away. The consoles, that once echoed with laughter, felt cold and silent. Alex pressed a fingertip to the smooth metal of the bench, remembering how bright life had felt when Sam was here. Now, the distance between them stretched farther than any starship could travel. He walked past the row of assembly drones, each one worry in perfect rhythm. In their coordination, Alex saw the unity that humans could achieve even on a distant world like Mars, yet in his heart, he felt alone. He tapped open his compad and stared at Sam's picture, a simple photo of two friends smiling beneath Earth's blue sky. Alex wondered if Sam looked at it now and felt the same ache. At night, Alex would lie in his small bunk and replay memories of Earth. He remembered the crowded streets of New York, honking cars and street performers. He and Sam used to race through Times Square, dodging crowds and grinning at each other. They had promised to build a future together among the stars. Promises meant little when one person headed for Titan and the other stayed on Mars. Alex tried to call. He dialed Sam's CUM ID a dozen times each day. He recorded voice messages that began with cheerful hellos and ended in trembling silence. "I hope you're safe," he would say. "I miss you." He would close his eyes and imagine Sam's response, a warm laugh, a quick joke, a plan to meet again soon. But the messages stayed unread. The only reply was the soft beep of an unanswered call. Doubt crept in. Had Sam forgotten him? Had life on Titan become so full that he no longer had time for an old friend on Mars? Alex shook his head, trying to banish the thought. He reminded himself that humanity thrived on challenge. Humans had built great cities, cured diseases, and reached for distant worlds. If they could do all that, surely Alex and Sam could bridge this gap. At dawn, Alex climbed to the workshop's observation deck, watched the two suns rise over the Martian horizon, painting the sky in pink and gold. He thought of how humans had learned to live here, to grow food, to mine ice, to breathe thin air. People worked together day after day to make a lonely planet feel like home. Their spirit inspired him. If Mars and Titan could share joy and hardship, why not two friends? Back at the bench, Alex opened a toolbox and began working on a small transmitter. It was a simple device, no larger than a human hand. His fingers moved with care, attaching circuits and soldering wires. He imagined beaming a message so clear and bright that Sam could see Alex's heart across the void. He wanted to break through the silence, to remind Sam they were still a team. The weeks passed in a blur of metal and light. Alex labored late into the night, guided by hope. He tested frequencies and adjusted power levels. When a tone crackled through the air, he leaned forward eagerly, but all he heard was static. He wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. Static meant the connection was close. Static meant he was reaching out. One evening, Earth's blue marble hung low in the sky, seen through the workshop window. Alex traced its shape with his finger. He pictured Sam gazing at the same planet from Titan's icy surface. They were both under the same sky. That thought warmed his chest. He pressed a final chip into place and flipped a switch. A soft hum filled the room. Alex spoke into the transmitter in a clear voice. "Sam, it's me, Alex. I built this so you can hear my voice. I miss you more than I can say. Please, answer if you can." He held his breath, listening. The workshop lights flickered as the signal pulsed outward. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint click echoed in his earpiece. Alex's heart pounded. Could it be? The voice that followed was distant and soft, but unmistakable. "Alex, I hear you." His eyes filled with tears. Hope shone brighter than any star. In that instant, he knew distance was no match for human will. No silence could last forever when two hearts refused to let go. And so, under the twin suns of Mars, Alex smiled. Ready to rebuild the bridge between him and Sam? Stronger than ever? Sam shivered inside the cramped lab on Titan as the faint echo of Alex's voice faded into static. The warm hum of his words, his hope still echoed in her mind. She pressed her gloved hand to the cold window and stared at Saturn's rings glowing through the haze. Every time she blinked, she felt the weight of the distance between them grow heavier. Years ago, she and Alex had dreamed of exploring the stars together. Now, they were on different worlds, and the silence had stretched too long. She sank onto a metal stool beside her console and wrapped her arms around herself. Titan's air was thick and cruel, and the isolation weighed on her heart. She felt sad for the empty lab, sad for the absence of laughter beside her bench, sad for every unspoken question. She touched her compad and stared at Alex's. Last message. I miss you. Please answer if you can. Her chest tightened. She had moved here to study Titan's atmosphere, to push humanity further into the unknown. But she never meant to leave her best friend so far behind. She tapped at the console, trying to call Alex back the usual way. She sent voice messages, each one beginning with a hopeful hello, Alex, and ending in silence. She wondered if he had moved on. Perhaps he was too busy on Mars with new projects and new friends. Self-doubt flickered like the lab lights, but she pushed it away. Humans had settled harsh worlds before. They had learned to share water on deserts, to draw power from storms, to build cities on ice. If people could do those things, she could reach Alex. Sam stood and pulled her coat tighter. She padded into the airlock and stepped onto Titan's surface. A gray light bathed the orange snow. The ground cracked beneath her boots as she walked toward the horizon. Above her, Saturn's band shimmered, a reminder that they were both under the same sky. Her breath crackled in the visor. Thought of Alex on Mars, staring at his own dual suns. The same sky feeling warmed them both, even though they were worlds apart. Returning to the lab, Sam cleared her workbench and gathered old parts saved from Earth shipments. She picked up a rusty transmitter from an abandoned outpost and ran her fingers over its worn casing. "This will do," she whispered to herself. Humans were clever when they had to be. They repurposed scrap metal into starships. They turned ice into fuel. They even grew gardens in dark caves. Sam felt that spark of human spirit flare inside her. She would build a link back to Alex.night, and day blended as she worked. Sam soldered wires, calibrated circuits, and tested power levels. Every failure sparked a new idea. When a component blew, she scavenged another. When a frequency failed, she adjusted it. She kept Alex's words close. I miss you. Those three simple words drove her forward. She figured the signal needed more strength to cross the gap between Titan and Mars. She redesigned the antenna so it would focus power like a lens of hope. A week later, the device stood on her benchy, a patchwork of old and new. It hummed softly, powered by Titan's methane generator. Sam held her breath and tapped the transmit button. Alex, can you hear me? She called into the microphone. She waited, her heart pounding louder than the machine. The console crackled, and she leaned in, listening. At first, she heard only wind noise and electronic buzz. Then, a clear voice broke through. Sam, is that you? Her chest swelled. Hope bloomed like spring flowers on earth. She pressed her hand to her chest, tears filling her eyes. Yes, it's me, she replied, her voice strong and calm. I built this for you. I heard you first. They talked without pause, filling the void with words. Sam told Alex about Titan's hidden lakes and orange skies. Alex spoke of red dust storms and solar arrays on Mars. They laughed over shared memories of Earth's blue oceans and crowded streets. Everything felt right again. When they finally said goodnight, neither wanted to hang up. They left the link open so their voices could echo across space. Sam looked out at the distant glow of Saturn's rings and knew that distance was only a challenge, not a barrier. If humanity could unite on harsh worlds, and two friends could certainly reconnect. She powered down the transmitter and smiled at the silent bench. The device was more than metal, and wire it was a bridge built by human will. Followed, Sam felt something shift inside her. She was no longer lonely. She was part of something greater, a silent promise between two people who refused to let distance win. And so, under the orange sky of Titan, Sam closed her eyes and felt hope. The stars above and the planet below held no limits for human courage. She had reached Alex across millions of kilometers, and together they would keep trying until the gap closed entirely. So that was the human way. Alex stared at the small hologram projector on his desk, its lens glowing faintly in the dim light of the Mars base workshop. He had spent weeks building this device after his first successful radio call with Sam on Titan. Hearing her voice had filled him with joy, but it had not erased the emptiness he felt. He still could not see her face, could not reach out and touch her hand. He pressed a finger against the smooth metal of the projector and wondered how he could bring Sam closer. Every morning, Alex climbed to the base's observation deck and looked up at the great orange sky. He imagined Sam standing under Saturn's rings on Titan, staring back at Mars. Both of them lived under the same silent stars, yet millions of kilometers separated their feet. He remembered how they used to work side by side in Earth's workshop, hammering metal and soldering circuits. Late into the night, they had built many inventions together. Now he worked alone. He ached to share his days with her again. One night, under the twin glow of Mars's setting suns, Alex decided to try something new. He gathered extra parts, old lenses from broken cameras, and a spare chamber from the base's abandoned lab. He began to build a simple hologram station. His plan was to send an image of Sam's face to him so he could see her smile again. He sketched the design on a screen, adjusted power levels, and soldered wires with careful patience. Every spark in the solder reminded him of human tenacity. People could light the darkness, shape metal into machines, and find warmth in the coldest corners of space. Alex worked around the clock. Each time he tested the hologram, the image wavered, or faded. He felt a sting of frustration, but he remembered another human strength: persistence. Humans had walked on the moon, built cities and deserts, and reached out to distant planets. If they could do all that, he could surely send a flicker of light across the void. He tightened screws, polished lenses, and improved the focus. He calibrated the frequency so the signal would travel from Mars's orbit to Titan's surface. When the station was ready, Alex activated it. The holoprojector hummed and a pale shape formed in the air. At first, the image was little more than a flicker. Then it resolved into Sam's familiar silhouette. Alex's heart raced. He spoke her name softly. Sam. The figure on the desk blinked and smiled. Her face glowed with warmth, though the edges looked slightly blurred. She waved, and Alex waved back.
What?
For a moment it felt like they were in the same room. His eyes filled with tears of relief and wonder. Sam reached out to touch the hologram, and Alex imagined her fingertips grazing his hand through the light. He heard her voice come through the speakers, low but clear. It's you, Alex. He grinned so wide his cheeks ached. They laughed together at the odd sight of light and dust forming her face. He asked how she had built her own receiver on Titan. She told him about the icy winds, and how she had placed the device on a high plateau to catch Mars's signal. Their laughter turned into excited chatter as they exchanged ideas for improving the images and sound. Over the next days, Alex and Sam worked as one team again, though they were worlds apart. They planned a joint project, a small solar sail probe that they would build with parts from both planets. The probe would carry messages and holograms between Mars and Titan automatically, like a silent courier of hope. They drew schematics, calculated trajectories, and gathered materials. When Alex finished a circuit, he would test it on the holostation and show Sam the live result. When Sam tuned her own equipment, Alex could see her proud smile reflected in light. Through this new collaboration, Alex felt closer to Sam than ever before. The distance still existed, but their shared purpose made it feel smaller. He thought of all the ways humanity overcame obstacles. People had learned to walk on air with wings, to speak through wires, to farm on barren rocks. Now he and Sam were using human creativity to bridge a gap between worlds. Every success? No. Matter how small, a clearer image. Stronger signal filled him with pride and hope. One evening, Alex sat quietly beside the hologram station. He watched Sam's image flicker gently in the blue glow. He said softly, "One day we will meet again in person." Sam smiled and nodded, her eyes bright. Yes, she said. We will. Alex felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the base's heaters. It was the warmth of human spirit, hopeful, unbroken, unafraid of distance. He reached out and touched the projector lens. Across millions of kilometers, Sam did the same on Titan. In that simple act, they closed the gap between two friends, reminding each other that distance could never dim the light of human connection. Asterisk. Sam sat at the control console in the Titan research station. The red lights on the panel cast a dull glow across her face. She stared at the probe's trajectory chart, where a tiny icon floated between Titan and Mars. That single dot felt like the only link to Alex every time she looked at it. Her chest tightened. She touched the smooth metal edge of the desk and sighed. Even with the hologram station working, she still could not feel Alex's presence. The distance weighed on her heart. She remembered the day she and Alex first stepped onto Titan's icy ground together. They had laughed as the wind howled around them, bundled in thick suits that made every step slow and deliberate. Back then, she had felt hope shining brighter than Saturn's rings above. Now that memory felt like a dream from another life. She missed Alex's laugh, the way he pointed out small wonders in the cold landscape. She missed their late-night talks over steaming cups of coffee. Sam tapped at her compad and sent a quick message to Alex. Thinking of you. Wish you were here. She waited for the little read icon, but it never came. Maybe he was busy with base repairs or testing the solar sail probe parts they had designed together. Still, her heart sank a little more each time the message went unanswered. She tried calling, but all she heard was static and a lonely echo in her headset. She switched off the compad and stood up, restless. She pushed her chair back and walked through the lab's airlock into the corridor. The fluorescent lights buzzed above her. Each step sounded hollow. She reached the window that looked out onto the frozen plains. Titan's orange haze was thick and silent. Below the horizon, methane lakes reflected the faint glow of distant stars. She pressed her palm against the glass, feeling nothing but cold. How can I reach him? She whispered to the empty sky. Determination flared in her chest. She returned to the console and opened the probe schematics. This was not enough. The probe needed more power, a stronger transmitter, better shielding against Titan storms. She gathered old solar cells, spare antenna parts, and even borrowed a dish from the communications lab. Humans had built great things from scraps. Before, if they could turn metal and ice into homes on Mars, she could build a stronger link to Alex. Over the next days, Sam worked for hours without rest. Her fingers moved with precision as she rewired circuits. Sparks flew when she soldered. Connections. Every failed test brought frustration signals too weak, images too blurry, power levels too low. Late at night, she sat on the lab floor, leaning against a crate, head in her hands. Doubt whispered that maybe this was impossible. Distance between Mars and Titan was too great even for human skill. But she remembered something. Humans had once flown across oceans in fragile wood and canvas. They had walked on the moon in bulky suits. They had built cities in deserts and grown gardens under the sea. Sam straightened her back and wiped her eyes. If people could achieve all that, she could overcome a few million kilometers. She stood up, brushed dust from her pants, and returned to work with new resolve. She adjusted the transmitter coil too, focused the signal like a beam of light. She added a small battery pack harvested from the station's emergency reserves. She strengthened the antenna's frame so it would not bend in the wind. Each change felt like a victory. When she tested the transmitter again, the console showed a clear spike in power. Her heart pounded as she activated the signal link. Alex, she called into the microphone, voice steady. This is Sam. Can you hear me? For a moment, there was only silence. Then a soft crackle answered her. A voice, warm and familiar, flowed through her earpiece. Sam, I hear you. The words filled the lab like sunlight breaking through clouds. Sam's lips curved into a wide smile, tears springing to her eyes. I did it, she whispered. I bridged the gap. She leaned forward, imagining Alex's face coming into focus. On the screen, A pale image flickered. The hologram station on Mars projected Sam's figure in soft blue light. She waved, and Alex waved back. They both laughed, voices rich with relief. "It's clearer than before," she said. "Your face is bright." Alex grinned and raised his hand. "Your message came through strong. Feels like you're right here." They spoke for hours, sharing stories of station life and workshop projects. Sam told Alex about Titan's greenish dawn and the way ice crystals danced in sunlight. Alex described a storm on Mars that had scattered red dust across his helmet. Every word, every laugh brought them closer. In that moment, the void seemed to shrink, held at bay by their shared hope. When they finally ended the call, neither wanted to let go. Sam watched the image of Alex fade, then powered down her console. She stood in the lab's quiet stillness, heart full. She'd felt distant only hours before. Now she knew distance was just a challenge, not a barrier. As long as humans built bridges with ingenuity and will, Alex stood outside the Mars base, his boots sinking slightly into the dusty red soil. The sun was setting behind the horizon, painting the sky with soft shades of gold and rose. But he didn't notice the beauty. He just stood still, staring. Up at the stars, somewhere out there on Titan, Sam was looking up too. The connection between them had grown stronger. They had built better systems, clearer holograms, stronger signals. They had even finished building their solar sail probe, and now it floated quietly between Mars and Saturn, passing messages back and forth. But today, something felt different. Alex hadn't heard from Sam in 3 days. No messages, no voice, not even static. He had checked every system, every frequency. Everything was working, but there was silence on Sam's end. He tried again, sending a message. "Hey Sam, are you okay? I miss you." He paused, hoping for an answer. Nothing. Kami walked back inside the base, his heart heavy. The hallway lights flickered slightly as he passed. He reached the small common room and sat down, his back slumping. Around him, screens showed charts and messages from Earth, but none of it mattered right now. He missed Sam's voice. He missed her clever jokes. He missed the way she always found a solution, no matter how tough things got. They'd come so far together. From Earth to the stars. From silence to shared invention. And yet now, with only distance between them, the silence returned, and it hurt more than before. Alex tapped the table with his fingers, thinking hard. He felt lost. What could he do if Sam wouldn't tour? Couldn't answer. Was wrong on Titan? A storm, maybe? A broken signal dish? He didn't know, and that made him feel helpless. But humans weren't helpless. He stood up suddenly. He remembered a story from Earth, how ancient sailors once lit fires on mountaintops. To guide their ships home, he couldn't light a fire in space, but he could send something even brighter. He raced to the engineering bay. His fingers flew across the console, pulling up designs for the solar sail probe. It had already completed its main mission, drifting between Mars and Titan. But what if it could do more? Alex opened a drawer filled with emergency flares, bright, strong, and visible in space when lit near thin atmosphere. A plan formed in his mind. He could send the probe toward Titan again, this time carrying a message made of light. A flare burst, timed and shaped into patterns, would be visible from Sam's observatory. If Sam saw it, she'd know he was still here, still waiting, still trying. He worked through the night. He modified the flare launcher, programmed the timing pattern, and recorded a message encoded in light pulses. The message was simple. You are not alone. I'm with you. Always, by morning, the probe was ready. He sent it off with trembling hands, watching the small craft disappear into the orange sky. He hoped the solar winds would carry it swiftly. Then all he could do was wait. Days passed, one longer than the last. Alex checked the sky every few hours, scanning for signals. The silence continued, wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. On the 5th day, something changed. The base alarm chimed a soft, high tone that meant an incoming transmission. Alex rushed to the console, heart racing. The screen blinked. Then a flicker appeared, a fuzzy blue hologram. It sharpened slowly, and there she was. Sam. Her hair was messy, and there were dark smudges under her eyes, but she was smiling. "Alex," she said, her voice shaky but warm, "I saw your light show." Alex laughed, his eyes stinging with tears. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine now," she said. "A storm hit. It knocked out our power grid. Everything went down, even the signal tower. I couldn't call you, couldn't tell anyone. I felt alone. But then I saw the lights, your message in the sky. I knew it had to be you. I was scared something happened," Alex admitted. "It did," Sam said softly. "But you reached me. You reminded me that humans never give up, even across the stars." They talked for hours, catching up, sharing laughter, wiping away tears. And when they ended the call, Alex felt something deep inside shift. The sadness hadn't disappeared. The distance was still real. But the hope was stronger. He stepped outside again that night. The wind was soft, and the stars above twinkled like tiny signals waiting to be read. Somewhere on Titan, Sam was looking up too. And even though they were apart, their connection built with light, sound, hope, and human strength would never break again, because humans always find a way. No matter how far, no matter how quiet the void, they reach across it. That is who they are. That is what they do. Sam leaned against the cold wall of her Titan base, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. The storm outside had finally passed, leaving a strange calm over the icy ground. She looked up at the sky where the stars blinked softly behind Saturn's hazy rings. Somewhere out there on Mars, Alex was working, waiting, maybe even worrying. And once again, she felt the heavy weight of distance between them. The last time they spoke had been days ago. Everything had gone well. The flare message, the laughter, the promise to talk again soon. But then a communications glitch struck. Her station. It wasn't serious, just a delay in data transfer and signal syncing. She could send short messages, but the hologram calls stopped working. Sam tried everything to fix it. She spent long nights in the control room, checking wires, testing connections, adjusting frequencies. But each time she hit call, the screen stayed dark. She sat now in the small observatory chamber, staring out into the vastness.
"Oh."
"I wonder if Alex thinks I'm ignoring him," she whispered. Her voice sounded small, even to herself. She pulled out a small photo from her suit pocket, old print of her and Alex on Earth, laughing with dust on their faces, covered in grease from one of their early projects. "I miss you," she said to the photo. "I just wish I knew how to reach you right now." For a moment she thought about giving up. Maybe the distance was too much. Maybe things had changed. Maybe the silence had become part of them. But then she shook her head. No, humans never gave up. They built bridges across oceans, survived the freezing dark of space, planted crops in airless soil, and built homes on moons that had once been just dots in the sky. If they could do all that, then two friends could reconnect. Even now, Sam stood and walked back to the main lab. Her fingers tapped quickly across the console as she pulled up a different system knot. The usual comes. But the long-range data beacon used to send scientific findings back to Earth. It had stronger signal strength and a steady, reliable link, though it was never meant for personal messages. "Why not?" she said with a grin. "Let's see what it can do." She began typing a message. Not just a few words, but a story. A full report of what had happened. She told Alex about the communication delay, the cold nights spent trying to fix it, the way she stood outside and looked at the stars thinking of him. She included details of her work to her new ice crystal analysis, the methane wind patterns, her small success in growing algae under Titan's weak light, and then, at the end, she wrote one line that meant more than anything else. "Even though I can't see you right now, I still feel close to you." That's the power of human connection. She hit send. The data burst shot out into space, carried by the beacon's strong pulse. It would take a few hours to reach Mars, but she knew it would get there. And that gave her hope, while she waited. She cleaned up the lab, organized tools, even made herself a small meal.
"Oh."
But all the while, her thoughts stayed with Alex. Had he received it? Would he reply? Did he still feel the same? That night, as she was preparing to rest, the console beeped. Her heart jumped. She rushed over, and there it was, a message from Mars. Sam, I read every word. I pictured you standing under Titan's sky, still trying. I knew, even without your voice, that you hadn't given up. That's who we are. That's what makes us human. I miss you too. Let's keep going. Together, Sam smiled. Eyes filled with tears. They were happy ones. She opened a small notebook and wrote something at the top of the page. HFY. Humanity finds a way. Then she wrote underneath it, no distance too far, no silence too strong. As long as we care, we stay connected. Outside, Titan's winds picked up again, but Sam didn't feel cold anymore. She felt warm because of a message, a spark, a thread of light stretching from one lonely base to another. And in that connection, she found strength again. Because humans don't let go. Even in silence, they speak. Even in distance, they reach. Even in darkness, they shine. That's the human way. Alex stood at the edge of the Martian ridge, staring at the horizon where the twin suns dipped behind the dusty hills. The sky glowed orange and gold, but he didn't smile. His heart felt heavy. Sam hadn't sent a message in nearly a week. They had been trying so hard. Messages, holograms, light signals, even long-range data reports. For months, they found ways to stay connected across the space between Mars and Titan. But now, there was only silence again. No reply, no flicker on the hologram projector, no sound through the receiver. Alex tried to stay calm. Maybe another storm had hit Titan. Maybe the signal tower broke again. Still, the silence made him feel small, like he was shouting into the stars and no one could hear him. He sat on a rock and pulled out a small cube from his jacket. It was a memory recorder, one Sam gave him before they left Earth. He tapped the top gently. It lit up, and her recorded voice played softly. Hey, Alex, her voice said with a warm laugh. Don't forget to eat. Don't build rockets in your sleep again. He smiled, even as tears stung his eyes. I miss you, Sam, he whispered. He wanted to reconnect desperately, but how? They had already used every machine, every signal. Every system they had. He felt like there were no options left. Then he looked up at the stars and remembered something Sam once said. When you can't reach someone the usual way, do something unusual. Alex stood up slowly. Something unusual. He returned to the Mars base and entered the greenhouse. Rows of plants stretched along trays under bright grow lights. The plants were part of an experiment. Could Martian soil support food long term? But to Alex, this garden had become more than a science test. It was proof of life, proof of hope. He looked at the central plot, the only one still empty. Suddenly an idea lit up in his mind. He grabbed a large sheet of reflective solar cloth and a pack of tiny lights from the engineering room. Then he returned to the greenhouse and carefully arranged the lights into a simple shape, something Sam would recognize at once. A heart glowing softly in the soil. Around it, he planted small flowers from earth blue forget-me-nots. They wouldn't grow very tall, but they would shine bright against the red dirt. Above the flowers, he hung the solar cloth and aimed a camera at it. Then he turned on the long-range beacon and pointed it toward Titan. The message was simple but powerful. I planted hope for you. He didn't know if she'd receive it. He didn't know if her systems were working. But he had to try. That was what humans did. They kept going, even when things seemed impossible. Over the next few days, he tended the flowers every morning, watered them, checked their roots, and adjusted the lights. He talked to them like they were Sam, telling them about the weather, the solar panels, and the books he was reading. It made him feel close to her, even in the silence. Then one evening, as he sat near the plants, the console chimed, a signal. Alex jumped to his feet and rushed to the receiver. The screen flickered, and then Sam's tired but smiling face appeared. Her hair was messy, and her eyes were puffy. But her grin was the brightest thing Alex had ever seen. I got your message, she said. The flowers, the heart, the lights. I saw it all. Are you okay? Alex asked, his voice trembling. Sam nodded. The storm knocked everything out again, but one of our workers saw your beacon and we followed it here. It gave us strength. We thought we were cut off for good, but you reminded us we're not alone. Alex couldn't speak for a moment. He just nodded, tears running down his cheeks. You never gave up, Sam continued. That's what makes you so human. He laughed softly. That's what makes us human. They talked until the signal faded, but this time there was no sadness in the silence that followed. Only peace. Alex looked back at the flowers. A few tiny blue petals had opened, facing the sky. He smiled and whispered she saw them. That moment, he knew distance couldn't break a true connection. Even if worlds stood between them, even if silence returned again, they would always find a way, because that's what humanity does.